We're here to make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Making news just for you. It's January 19th here in Seoul. I'm Shin-Yun. I'm the news anchor of Arirang's new daily morning program, News Generation, where young people make the news at Arirang's very own open studio. Every morning, we'll discuss the top issues and latest current affairs affecting people in their 20s and 30s. Joining me in the studio is Kim Xiang.
Good morning, Ian.
And Cheska Dain-hong.
Good morning. And good morning, Professor Kim. Hello.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hello, Diane. Nice to see you again. Very nice.
All right, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. Now, if we move on, every day we will make a news feed for the new generation, and we're looking at the top trending hashtags on social media in the past 24 hours. And here's the 3 hashtags that we have for you today. The first hashtag is Greta Thunberg. The 20-year-old Swedish environmental activist was briefly detained by police after taking part in a protest against the demolition of the German village of Lützerath to expand a nearby coal mine. The village's fate also resembles Germany's efforts to go coal-free by 2030 amid the gas crisis. The second hashtag is smoking bans. Mexico on Sunday has decided to ban smoking in hotels, parks, and all other public spaces, becoming one of the world's strictest enforcers against smoking. The WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus applauded Mexico's efforts. The last hashtag is year-end tax adjustment. It's a busy time of the year as we're settling our year-end taxes, and we should also be aware of spam emails from phishing scammers pretending to be employees of the National Tax Service. Now, these emails use a similar address to the website of the National Tax Service and push the recipient to click on a URL that says keep the same password. So once you do click the email, your personal information may get leaked, so please be careful. Right. Now, bringing the discussion back to the studio, why do you think these particular hashtags have been popular among the new gen?
Sure. I mean, let me just comment on the news with Greta Thunberg first. Greta Thunberg definitely shed light on this issue of the coal sites in Germany. And this becomes more important as quite recently the German government reached a deal with the energy company RWE, the owner of the mine, in 2022, last year. And this allowed to expand into Lützerath in return for ending coal use by 2030 rather than 2038. And especially Greta being there and leading the protests as well and having the media's awareness shone light upon her gives a lot more awareness to the situation than anybody else we can.
Right. And what about you, Cheska? What about the other 2 hashtags? Definitely the one that caught my attention was about the smoking ban. So speaking on behalf of the non-smokers, I definitely applaud the effort, but I also know that I have smoking friends, so I know how tough it can be, but I definitely applaud efforts on both sides. Right. And about the year-end tax scam, do you guys do your own taxes?
I do.
I do.
You do.
Well,
so
yeah.
I get super nervous when I get these texts from official-looking, numbers or messages about the bank or the financial department. I get so anxious.
Of course.
Yeah. So I hope that people who are watching this are very careful about these scams out there.
I think the problem is that the phishing, the texts, the devious scam attempts and things like that, they're getting more convincing.
They are.
So clever.
You can't tell the difference between a real text and a fake text that's been sent by a scammer.
Exactly.
So I think we should be more aware, definitely, as technology advances as well.
Exactly. And for those of you who are in Korea, make sure to just go to the National Tax Service website and check what their email is, or call them to see if this email is legitimate. All right. Thanks for both of you for making our news feed for today. Moving on, News Generation discusses different topics each day, and here's what we have for you today. The new generation, comprised mostly of millennials and Gen Z, have the biggest purchasing power among all generations. That's why it's important for companies to understand what they need and want. One thing is ethical consumption. Surveys by the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry show that 6 out of 10 people in this age group would be willing to pay more for products from businesses that follow ESG. That means putting environmental, social, and governance values ahead of price. Today, NewsGen looks at 3 questions. 1. What does it mean to be an ethical consumer or company? 2. How are companies showing that they're ethical, and should we take those claims at face value? 3. How should we become better ethical consumers? Now, as we saw in the video, today we'll talk about ethical consumption. What is it, and how are companies responding to this? So my first question for both of you in the studio is, are you guys ethical consumers?
Yes, I am, but I would say ethical consumption isn't just about choosing the right brands. I mean, personally, I try to use more sort of sustainable products as well. For example, the shampoo I use will be refillable shampoos.
Oh.
So I'll use the same bottle. I mean, the bottle's plastic as well,
Right.
so, you know, I mean, it's not going to break or it's not going to dissolve in the matter of a year or two. So I do buy the refill packs and refill it there. A lot of companies are starting to have this kind of cosmetic refill stations as well,
Definitely.
which is very encouraging for the environment and to be an ethical consumer as well.
What about you, Cheska?
Just to comment on that,
Right.
so you do shower on a regular basis to save. I mean, do you not shower as frequently to save the water and the shampoo?
I mean, water saving is actually a great matter as well.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of countries do suffer from having, you know,
No,
depending on
absolutely.
rainwater as
Yes.
well. When I used to live in New Zealand with this water tank and did have to save some water.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, saving as much as possible when I can, and having
Right.
that habit, I think, is very important. Rather than just, you know, going for consumer brands and choosing different brands.
Definitely, you're an ethical consumer leaning
guess
towards
so.
environmental.
More
Yes.
sort of organic ethics.
Yes, eco-friendly.
And your hair has never looked so great.
Yes, it looks
Exactly,
amazing.
yeah.
All right, what about you, Cheska?
For me, I think my spending pattern has definitely evolved over the years. So right now, I'm a young professional. I travel a lot. I'm moving around a lot. So when I purchase, I prioritize sustainability, but also practicality and versatility. So like digital gadgets or like my bags, instead of choosing like well-known brands, I look for how durable it can be
Right.
and how long-lasting it can be. But for things like my jewelry, all of my bracelets represent the organizations or NGOs that I work with.
That's really nice.
Oh, thank you.
That is.
So, yeah, but I must confess, I try very, very hard. But as always, I don't get to check the boxes for conscious spending on everything.
Right.
So when a company publicly advertises that they have a social cause or environmental value, I definitely try to be a more active consumer, but in other cases, I'm still trying to be
I
an
mean,
ethical
as long
consumer.
as you're trying,
Yeah.
that's still very respectable.
Thank
And
you.
before we go on, can you define what it means to be an ethical consumer?
Absolutely. So ethical consumption basically means knowing exactly where your money's going and for what. So you are a conscious consumer when you know exactly how and when to execute both the power and the privilege of your money with a very clear intention.
Right.
And that intention would be your ethical values.
I see.
So
Fantastic.
at a TED Talk, I watched a very fun clip where it talked about the values being sort of like your GPS, like to navigate, and a filter to eliminate. And I thought it might be kind of analogous to dating.
Right.
So picture like your perfect lifestyle,
Yes.
and you would only engage with things that align with your values and not engage with things that may be sparkly or pretty, right?
Yes.
Pun very much intended, yeah.
Right,
Very
so
much
even
understood.
in ethical spending, you would say there's different categories,
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
I
so
think you have to choose between
different
like,
values, so that each consumers would actually like to take on.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. And I would like to move on to what it
Sure.
means for a company to be ethical, then, Xiang.
Right, I mean, ethics in company could be really well represented by CSR. It's a commonly spoken term these days, and it stands for corporate social responsibility. This is a form of international sort of private business self-regulation, which aims to contribute to societal goals that are philanthropic or activist or charitable nature by engaging or supporting volunteering or ethically oriented practices for the company themselves. This actually began to take hold in the US in the 1970s, interestingly, when the concept of social contract between business and society was declared by the Committee for Economic Development in 1971.
I see.
As some countries are also following suit, interestingly, India from 2014 also announced that companies are required to spend a minimum of 2% of their net profit over the preceding 3 years as a CSR funding.
I see.
Now, so all in all, I think exercising good influence, creating jobs, transparency and ethical management of the company, protecting the environment, and last of all, of course, serving the consumers is how the companies act ethically.
And I think a lot of the younger generation is catching on to that because they prefer to buy from ethical companies to become ethical consumers themselves. Why is this so?
So as all the research states that, you know, the MZ, our generation, definitely have a very particular way of spending. And I think it's kind of due to the following. One, we're the digital native.
Yes.
So we have all the information at the tip of our fingertips. So we can research and learn about the companies very quickly. And second, we really strive to form community as well as our identity. Now, if you combine them two, all the research like Vox Burner 2019 Youth Report or Forbes report on Gen Z shoppers indicate that on average between 60 to a whopping 77% of Gen Z shoppers would take an action for a cause they believe in through spending.
Wow, so like 7 out of 10.
Exactly. That's a very
Huge
good
number.
Yeah, that's a very
Huge number.
Huge number, yeah. And more than half, 54% of Gen Z shoppers would spend more on sustainable items, even if it's 10% more in price.
I see. So that's still a lot, 10% more.
It is a lot if you think about what prices it might be. And there are some very interesting lingos / terms that reflect the social temperature.
Right.
And I brought them with me to test our panel.
Oh, okay.
Let's see.
MZ level. So, okay, the first word is meaning out.
Meaning out?
Yeah,
Meaning out.
meaning out. And the second...
That's a term.
Is a term.
Oh, okay.
One word.
Meaning out.
Meaning out.
Okay.
Professor Kim, come on.
Right.
And number two, the second word is 돈줄, Korean.
Oh, 돈줄.
So you guys know.
Yeah.
Yes, so do you guys...
Should we answer?
Yeah.
You know what 돈줄 means, right?
I know what isn't 돈줄 when you like a company or a product and you go, especially for restaurants, I think in Korea.
Yeah.
If they go on TV, they did something good or the food's great, they'll just go and say, "Oh, we're going to punish you."
Yeah,
by,
exactly.
You know, paying you a bunch of money.
Right.
Yeah.
Professor Kim, you nailed it. That's very...
Oh, I'm the new generation.
I was worried about him, to be honest, like of all of us. But it's great that you got it. So you nailed it perfectly. So 돈줄 basically means to punish with money, but it's an oxymoron because you're actually rewarding the company with so much money because they did something.
Term,
Yes.
yes.
Right. What about meaning out?
So meaning out is basically you're expressing, like out, you're expressing your meaning, so your values through purchase.
So you're coming out with a meaning.
Exactly.
All right. These are fun lingo.
Right? So both of these terms reflect how MZ, our generation, are keenly aware of the power of our purchases and to make social impact.
Right. And I think companies are aware of this, Xiong, right?
Definitely.
If so, what are their strategies?
I mean, companies' basic strategies are quite obvious ones, to be honest. I mean, the things that we could all think of, things like creating positive change in society, doing more for the environment, you know, putting people first, you know, championing animal rights if they need to test their products and things like that. And even sometimes taking a strong political stance might be helpful. Let's actually take a look at the visual aid I've prepared for you. Right, according to the Korea Economic Daily, there are 5 main categories to determine the increase in ESG efforts for the top 100 companies in South Korea. Most importantly, out of these 5, we see a great increase in percentage for positive answers to the question whether a separate ESG team has been established within the company. As we can see on the chart on the screen, there has been an increase from 54% to 89% in the space of just 1 year from 2021 to 2022. Now, let's have a look at the second graph I have for you.
The second graph being right here.
Yep. This shows the different goals for ESG projects and annual business plans that took place last year in order of priorities. Interestingly, compared to 2021, there has been a slight change of order in the space of a year as well. So we see on the screen for 2022, the top priority is reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Second, improving safety. Third, development of eco-friendly products and services. Fourth, climate change. And fifth, strengthening governance and transparency.
All right. So these are the 5 annual goals that businesses are trying to achieve. And why don't we hear directly from a company that has been recognized as an ethical one? Joining us through Skype is the CEO and co-founder of Rael, a feminine company that prioritizes selling safe and chemical-free products. It's Yang Hee-Pek. Welcome.
Hello, very nice to meet you. Thank you so much for
Welcome,
having
Yang.
me.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, Yang Hee, if you could please introduce yourself and your company's values.
Yeah, my name is Yang Hee-Pek. I am the CEO co-founder of Rael. Rael is a holistic personal care brand for women that was founded by 3 Korean American women in LA back in 2017. Our mission is to empower women with better for you and better for the environment products. And we're best known for our organic cotton cover pads, reusable period care products, and clean vegan skincare line that are popular in the US and also in Korea. There are a few areas we're very much focused on from a corporate value perspective. Number one is our commitment to developing products that are made with clean, sustainable ingredients that work really well. Number two is our commitment to educating women about how their bodies work and how to better take care of their bodies. Number three is actually tackling the taboo topics like periods and hormonal acne. And we want to make sure people feel comfortable about talking about periods and then what they go through, during their hormonal cycle. And the last one I would say is we try to give back to the community and help other women by making product donations and helping underprivileged women as much as we can.
And Yang Hee, I believe that your company has also caught on to this trend of consumers looking for ethics and ethical companies. In your opinion, do you think there was a specific turning point or a campaign that went viral?
In the US, I cannot really think of like a specific turning point, but I think about like 10 years ago, a decade ago, there have been quite a few successful digitally native startup companies who have incorporated social causes in their mission and the products and the services. So I think it kind of became natural for these emerging startup companies to think hard about the social responsibilities. It's a little different in Korea though. In Korea, back in 2017, there was a lot of media coverage about the toxins and then questionable ingredients in the conventional pads. And because of the news, that came out of, the market, a lot of women became naturally just aware that, there can be safer options and more ethical companies who are transparent about what they do and how they make their products. So in Korea, that really helped kind of grow the organic natural space for feminine care.
And I believe, Xiong, you might have a question for
Yes, Yang Hee, if I could ask you a quick question as well. How did your company respond to the growing awareness and prioritization of ethics and ESG values among consumers?
I think we're actually kind of lucky that the nature of the business we're in is already very much aligned with what consumers were looking for from an ESG perspective. The products that we make are clean, made with sustainable raw materials, ingredients, so it was kind of meeting their expectation. But from a social responsibility perspective, we have been really looking for proactively opportunities to give back to the community by working with homeless women, single moms, young girls who don't have great access to high quality period products. So we have been making donations as much as we can to help the society.
All right, thank you so much, Yang Hee. It was a pleasure to hear from you and the mission and vision your company has for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yang Hee.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, given that we are a live morning program, we always ask our viewers questions related to our discussion topic in advance, and we use this time to share with you what they had to say. If you take a look at the screen, we ask them what factors they think about when buying products, and Siska Andriani 1737 says for food products, she usually checks the quality and the expiration date. Politics 8128 says she checks the sugar content of food and the types of fabric in her clothing. Leon Tio 93 says for electronic products, he checks the warranty period and if their customer service is efficient. So I feel like for this is more sensible spending. We talked about ethical spending throughout now, but now I believe that a lot of our viewers also value sensible.
I think so, yeah.
Right? And Xiong, what fascinated you about these comments?
I mean, the comments mostly detailed how they purchase an object, purchase an item. Like the first viewers were saying how they purchase food products, the second on electronics and so so on. So I think they really think about the pattern of spending rather than the actual sort of ethics behind spending. It's a fine line. It's actually difficult to tell whether you're ethically spending or whether you're being a reasonable, sensible consumer.
Like a practical spender.
Exactly. Both are very important, right? Now, every day we do upload questions related to our discussion topic for our viewers to answer. And if you want to participate, please search Arirang News on YouTube and look into our community tab.
Please do.
Now, I would like to bring the discussion to the final part for today.
Aww.
And I would like to ask Cheska, what do you think are the pros behind ethical spending?
I mean, there are so many pros, but just to give a very general idea of ethical spending, as consumers, all of us have the power to not only shift, but shape the global economy, but also the ecosystem of the market behavior itself.
Right.
Definitely.
And what this translates into is that we can create, promote, and usher an actual positive changes and tangible impact in our society just by our way of spending as well-informed and smart consumers. So I really hope that our generation take this responsibility to empower ourselves and also the companies out there who are doing wonderful things so we can tunjule them.
Tunjune, and I will join you guys.
I know.
I will join
We're
you guys
there waiting for your
tunjure.
companies.
Exactly. And Xiong, is there anything we should keep in mind in order for us to become ethical spenders?
I mean, I think as a general rule, ethical brands will be transparent. They'll also be open and honest about their credentials as well. So you could definitely check to see if they got, fair trade marks and things like that. That does guarantee a certain level of sustainability in their product chains and supply chains and things like that. But obviously, no brand is perfect at the end of the day. And you should be, as a consumer, look into these details, look into what the companies are spending on, especially what they invest on as well. A lot of these bigger companies that do have the ability to spend money and build new plants and things like that, they will be able to, they be the deciding factors by the consumers whether you should spend on their products or not.
Right, so it's a good balance between what the company should be doing and us consumers.
Exactly.
All right, today we talked about ethical consumption and what a growing number of the new generation value or look for when buying products or services. And we'll be here every day from 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you the topics that young people are talking about. Joining me in the studio was Kim Xiong
My pleasure, yeah.
and Cheska Dain-hong.
The pleasure was always mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are News
News
Generation.
Generation.